Have you ever felt like you were operating on a completely different frequency than everyone around you? Not in a way that makes you feel superior, in a way that makes you feel out of sync. Like the world is moving at one speed and your mind at another, and no matter how hard you try, you cannot slow it down. Maybe you have been told you are too sensitive, too quiet, too much in your own head. You have probably apologized for overthinking, for needing quiet, for staying up too late, for the state of your desk. But here is what most people are never told. The habits you have learned to see as flaws are often the quiet, unmistakable markers of a highly intelligent mind. Today, we are going through 7 of them. But first, one thing you need to understand about how a high IQ brain actually works. Most people assume a smart brain is fast and clean, processing what matters and filtering everything else out. Research into sensory gating tells a different story. Highly intelligent brains often have what psychologists call leaky sensory gating. While a typical brain blocks background information, a ticking clock, the texture of clothing, a subtle shift in tone, the intelligent brain lets significantly more of that in. It notices the noise inside the signal. It looks for patterns where other brains see nothing worth processing. Most brains work with 5 puzzle pieces at once. A high IQ brain works with 1,000. This leaky filter is the foundation for every sign we are about to discuss. Sign 1. You talk to yourself. In our culture, this is treated as a quirk at best. But in cognitive psychology, self-directed speech is a recognized sign of high cognitive load, an intelligent mind doing something very deliberate. When a brain is processing more than internal thinking can handle, it externalizes. Speaking out loud engages your auditory cortex to help your prefrontal cortex manage complex ideas, adding a second processor to the operation. A study in the Quarterly Journal of Experimental Psychology found that people who verbalized their thoughts while searching for objects found them significantly faster than those who stayed silent. If you talk to yourself, your brain is not malfunctioning. It is using every available resource to think more clearly. It is refusing to settle for half-processed thinking. That is not a flaw. That is a standard most people never hold themselves to. Sign 2. Your space is never quite as organized as people expect. There is a deep cultural belief that a messy desk signals a messy mind. But researchers at the University of Minnesota found that people working in cluttered rooms consistently produced more creative and divergent ideas than those in tidy environments. A perfectly ordered space reinforces conventional thinking. Clutter breaks visual habit and signals to the brain that unusual connections are permitted. Your brain is not failing at organization. It is prioritizing the synthesis of ideas over the maintenance of physical order. Those scattered notes and open books are not evidence of laziness. They are evidence of a mind that is actively working even when it appears to be doing nothing. Sign 3. You come alive at night. Psychologist Satoshi Kanazawa found a direct correlation between higher IQ and nocturnal habits. From an evolutionary perspective, humans are wired for daytime activity. Consistently operating at night requires overriding deep biological programming, and researchers argue that cognitive override is itself a marker of higher intelligence. But beyond the science, night removes something critical for the high IQ brain: social noise. The demands, the interruptions, the relentless stimulation that a leaky sensory filter struggles to manage during the day. When the world finally goes quiet, your brain gets the bandwidth to follow a single thought all the way to its conclusion. If your clearest thinking happens at 2 in the morning, that is not a sleep disorder. That is your brain finding the conditions it was always looking for. Sign 4. You carry a specific, outcome-based anxiety that never fully goes away. There is a well-documented irony in psychology. The more intelligent a person is, the more they tend toward anxiety, not vague unease. A precise, outcome-focused worry tied directly to how the intelligent mind processes possibility. While most people see one path forward, a high IQ mind sees 50 and begins stress testing every single one. It runs failure scenarios. It identifies weak points before they appear. A study from Lakehead University found that individuals who scored higher on verbal intelligence also scored significantly higher on measures of anxiety and rumination. This is not a coincidence. Verbal intelligence and the tendency to simulate complex scenarios are neurologically linked. Your anxiety is not a weakness. It is foresight. The anticipatory mind that runs simulations is the same mind that catches problems everyone else misses. The anxiety and the foresight are the same thing, seen from different angles. Sign 5. Certain sounds or environments overwhelm you in ways that feel disproportionate. A ticking clock, someone chewing, a faint fluorescent hum. To most people, these are background details. To you, they can make clear thinking almost impossible. Psychologist Daria Zavalina found that people with high intellectual and creative achievement show reduced latent inhibition. Their brains are measurably less capable of filtering out stimuli that the average brain dismisses as irrelevant. Because your brain does not easily dismiss things. It looks for the pattern in everything. This is why highly intelligent people are often described as irritable or antisocial in noisy environments. They are not being difficult. Every environment that has ever overwhelmed you did so not because you were too weak to handle it, but because your brain was processing significantly more information from it than anyone around you was. You were not failing to cope. You were processing more than anyone expected you to. Sign 6. The more you know, the less certain you feel. You have probably noticed that the loudest, most confident people in any room are rarely the most knowledgeable. This is the Dunning-Kruger effect. People with limited knowledge overestimate their competence because they do not yet know enough to recognize its limits. For the highly intelligent, it operates in reverse. The more you learn, the more you see how much remains unknown, how many competing perspectives exist, how easily a confident-sounding answer can be incomplete. You see the labyrinth where others see a straight line. If you have ever sat in a room as the most prepared person present and still felt like a fraud, that is not inadequacy. That is intellectual honesty. The people who never feel like frauds are usually the ones who have not yet learned enough to know what they do not know. Sign 7. Your humor is dark, specific, and frequently lands differently than you intended. A study from the University of Vienna found that people who appreciate and generate dark humor score significantly higher on both verbal and nonverbal intelligence. The reason is clear. Dark humor requires the brain to hold two contradictory things simultaneously, tragedy and absurdity, and find the structural tension between them genuinely funny. That is a cognitively demanding operation requiring emotional detachment, pattern recognition, and abstract thinking. If your jokes make people uncomfortable, you are not being callous. Your brain is stepping back far enough from the emotion of a situation to see its structure. That is not coldness. At its best, dark humor is a form of resilience, a way of acknowledging the hardest parts of existence without being paralyzed by them. Here is what I want you to take away. The world was built for a different kind of brain. Clean filters, morning schedules, tidy desks, and calm certainty. When you do not fit those expectations, the world tends to treat that as a problem to be fixed. But it is not a problem. It is an architecture. A specific, research-supported architecture that produces perception, creativity, and the kind of intelligence that notices what everyone else walks past. Your mess is creativity. Your anxiety is foresight. Your sensitivity is pattern recognition. Your late nights are your brain finding the quiet it needs. Your doubt is intellectual honesty. And your dark humor is resilience dressed as a joke. Stop trying to fix the parts of yourself that were never broken. Which of these 7 signs felt most like yours? Tell me in the comments. Subscribe if you have not already, and I will see you in the next one.